W real fast with the tasty coffee. And they say Chicken Palooza's over. I still have the shirt, so I'll be picking up some fried chicken and some Western fries. Royal Farms, make sure you're downloading the ROFO app using the rewards program when you're pumping your gas. You'll get your chicken free of charge. I spent a little time out in the land of Cleve last month for the Ray Lewis induction to the Hall of Fame. I guess I'll wind up out there next year with Ed Reed as well. I had a little fun poking fun at the Hard Knocks billboard out off 4th Street there downtown by the former Gund. This guy has covered the Browns through the tough times, but has also covered the Cavaliers through the great times and is waiting those great times for the Indians this fall. Here's Daryl Ruiter. He's my pal out in Cleveland. He is Right or Wrong fan out on Twitter. And look, man, I poked fun at Hard Knocks, and then you made some cameos in Hard Knocks. My wife and I kind of got addicted to Hard Knocks. I love Hugh. I love Tyrod, or as Tyrod, as they like to say now. I'm buying what you're selling. I'm buying that the Browns could win 6 or 7 games this year, my man.
It's an improved roster. I mean, John Dorsey, the new GM, pretty much gutted the thing. Only 19 position players, offensive, defensive guys, survived. They have 31 new players this year on both sides of the football. Same 3 specialists, but we'll leave those guys to the side because that's not the core of the team. But you're talking about an almost 60% overhaul of a roster of a team that didn't win a single game. So the reconstruction's complete, and now they need to get out on the football field and show everybody that the days of the bumbling, stumbling, grumbling Cleveland Browns have come to an end.
Daryl Ruiter has been through all the bad times and the minute or two of good times. Give me the Hard Knocks story as you see it, right? Because we did Hard Knocks here 17 years ago now. Coach Bellick still laughs about it, and we were talking about it through camp because, of course, Coach is our partner here on behalf of the Living Classrooms Foundation, but also, does the Ravens preseason. And it seems like the plague is set upon these franchises when Hard Knocks shows up and comes to town. I thought this summer's Hard Knocks was incredibly compelling. I thought it stayed on the field. It stayed on point. I just thought it showed the better side of the Browns organization for what they're trying to build there. And, I want to see this tight end play. I want to see how the administration does there. And I noticed that they did leave management and ownership mainly out of the season for the most part, right?
Yeah, and there was no real reason to drag them into it, but absolutely. I think that the series was very good for the franchise. The timing of it's perfect. This is a team that didn't win a game last year, so anything they do this year is going to be an improvement. There's no expectations of making the playoffs here, so you're not talking about this production interfering with those aspirations and those preparations coming into the season. So the timing was perfect. It did a good job to reset the narrative about the franchise. No team has ever gone 4-44 over a 3-season span before until the Cleveland Browns did it. This is the worst stretch of football in team history. The fact that they've lost 34 of their last 35 games. I mean, think about that. 34 of 35 games they've lost. That's in today's NFL, that is almost incomprehensible. So they are starting from scratch. And having Hard Knocks there really allowed them to show the country that this is a professionally run organization, that they've brought in a lot of new faces, that times really are going to get better. All the empty promises from the past finally might actually bear some fruit with this administration. So I thought that the show was of absolute benefit to them. I can't think of a single negative about having that show hanging around the Cleveland Browns during training camp.
Daryl, I wouldn't have drafted Baker Mayfield. I think I said that to you the week before the draft. I think I had you on after the draft. And probably the last time we visited was back in April, back when the Orioles weren't 53 games out of first place. We'll get to that a little later on. But, I'm not impressed by it. I sort of see the moxie, and having watched it and seen the trailer and Brad Paisley and all of that stuff, and I think he sort of showed better than maybe he did crotch chopping and running around playing a fool out in Oklahoma at various points over the last couple of years. I don't know where the skill set is. I think it certainly showed better than Johnny Football probably would have shown the last couple of years, or whatever horror stories Mike Pettin would tell me about all of that, or maybe ones you would tell me about that as well. But I'm not convinced he's the Messiah. I'm really not. Am I convinced they're better? And I'm convinced they're better in a lot of ways. I'm not convinced that they're better there.
I'm not convinced. Well, they're absolutely better at quarterback. It is night and day difference. First of all, I think Baker Mayfield got a raw draft, or got a raw deal from the media leading up to the draft, because the media is, and we're all guilty of it. We're all about clicks. We're all about listeners and viewers and all that kind of stuff. And negativity sells. And that guy, because of one incident, which was stupid and inexcusable, the running from cops video, because of that, and then because of some of the passion and not controlling his emotions on the field, planting the flag at Ohio Stadium after beating the Buckeyes a year after the Buckeyes, went to Oklahoma and mopped the floor with him, the obscene gesture he made, but aside from that, he is not even close to what was described in the media leading up to the draft. It's so unreal how he was portrayed as Johnny Manziel 2.0, and he's anything but. First of all, he's got 1,000 times more talent than Johnny Manziel does. He's 1,000 times smarter, got 1,000 times more arm strength, has 1,000 times more pocket awareness than Johnny does.
He looks like he loves football. I'll give you that. And it looks like he's going to love winning if he can win. You know what I mean? Like, it's important to him. I can see that.
I'm not sold that he's the Messiah. I'm not sold on that. But I am sold on he's a really good football player. And he's a real smart football player. And he's got the leadership qualities. His teammates gravitate toward him. He knows his role. And those he has the it factor. He has the intangibles that you can't teach a quarterback. And so that has me thinking that if this franchise can get their you-know-what together around him, he does have a chance to be successful. And I give them credit for not rushing him onto the field. It's a big debate here in Cleveland. There's, people that want they want Baker Mayfield on the field tomorrow. They don't want to wait. They don't want to waste any time with Tyrod Taylor. They want to see Baker now because he's the number one pick in the draft. But I think the most intelligent decision that this franchise has made is they put themselves in a position to where they don't even have to consider that option. They can allow him to grow, learn, develop without having to get his brains bashed in every Sunday like they've done to so many other rookie quarterbacks over the years.
Daryl Ruiter is Right or Wrong Fan. That's Ruiter, Wrong Fan, out in the land of Cleve, running around with the Browns and Hard Knocks. They open against the Pittsburgh Steelers. All of our WNST coverage, and believe it or not, I'm going to allow a Pittsburgh Steelers flower onto the ledge here. I've got a Bills flower in this week. It's all brought to you by our friends at Sporticulture. The flowers around me here can be yours at Sporticulture. That's sporticulture.com. It's local. My pal Court's out there on the west side of town, but they can send them anywhere and everywhere, including this lovely Chirps flower that I have because they're 1-0 and heading to Bowling Green. I had to Google exactly where Bowling Green is. I mean, exactly like on the highway, Kentucky highways and all that stuff. Also brought to you by Charles Newsonoff & Sons. I got flowers and I got jewelry. How about that? Since 1923, true love comes in all shapes and sizes, and there is something for everybody in any budget at Charles Newsonoff & Sons. They buy gold. Go see them in Parkville at charlesnewsonoff.com. Sydney says, let's grow old together over Charles Newsonoff & Sons. Daryl Ruiter is my guest. He's out in Cleveland where they're always a bridesmaid, never a bride on the baseball side. Certainly LeBron leaving. Dude, can I just kiss Cleveland's ass for a couple of minutes? Will you allow me to do that? Is that a good – because it comes from the heart if I'm doing it, right, Daryl?
Yeah, because you do enough bashing of it, so sure.
Oh, come on, dude. Everyone knows I love Cleveland. I've loved Cleveland since the days of Parma and Strongsville. And listen, I went out there this summer.
Parma and Strongsville still exist.
Listen, I did 3 days. I've been coming to Cleveland. First time I ever went to Cleveland, I came through Tower City off the RTA on a United 6 a.m. flight the morning of the drive game. So whatever, January 86, 87, whatever, 87 is what it was, right? No, it might have been 86.
Yeah.
87, whatever it was.
You just have to keep, keep bringing up the bad memories.
31 years. Look, I was there when we stole your team. I was there when we brought them back, right? So, I love Cleveland. Cleveland has improved so much, and I don't know if it's a LeBron effect. I don't know whether it's your mayor, your governor, your citizens, your businesses, your councils. The city's clean. The city feels safe. The city feels vibrant. My kid went to see Hamilton down at the Playhouse. The Tribe was in town. You couldn't get a ticket. It was $50 to sit on the roof. I went to the Flats, and Luke and I sat down there at the Jimmy Buffett joint and watched the pretty girls go by and had too many beverages and got in an Uber and then went back to 4th Street and hung out at this butcher and pig and poke and whatever and the craft beers, and we're eating like bread and cheese and meats in the middle of the night. And Cleveland was like Manhattan, dude. Hats off to Cleveland. We need to fix Baltimore, and I use Cleveland as a shining example because I never hated Cleveland. I never thought Cleveland was a sty. I never sort of even made fun of it in that way, but it's come a long way, dude, and I don't know what's going on there, but, it's a good place. That's all I'm going to say.
Cranes are in the skyline right now, and that's always a great sign for a city is when you drive by and you see a bunch of cranes in the skyline. That means things are going well. There's a couple of cranes and some high-rise developments that are going in. They've done a real nice job downtown, and even our building where our radio station's located downtown, it has been completely renovated from top to bottom. Housing and apartments and condos and all that kind of stuff is going in our building.
Like places to eat and like clean places to walk around, and there's no trash and no bums and no squeegees and no people with signs and literally it was like shenanigan free for 3.5 days. I walked around and I'm like, man, God bless you, Cleveland. I want to say something good about America, making Cleveland great. There you go. I'm going to give you that one. But for the Tribe and I guess for the city and for where the Browns are, it's been a nice little period over the last 5 or 10 years to be a Cleveland sports fan, right?
Well, yeah. It helps because the Cavs and the Indians, now if the Browns get their act together, the city will really erupt. So, we'll see if the Browns can take that first step starting Sunday. They haven't won an opener since. By the way, congratulations. The Baltimore Ravens are the answer to a trivia question. Named the only team to lose to the Cleveland Browns in Week 1 since 1999.
Really? I don't remember that one. I don't want to remember that. I don't remember it. I don't know what you're talking about. Daryl Ruiter is here, Right or Wrong Fan, out at 92.3, and The Fan out in the land of Cleve. And so the Steelers, so the Bengals, right? Like, you could talk Browns. I am bullish on the Ravens, and you can come back and have a go at me on October the 7th. And obviously, we're going to end the campaign with you guys this year. You guys are coming in here for New Year's. Yep. But I'll be out at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and eating at David Modell's favorite pizza joint on October the 6th. And I'm assuming the Indians will either be playing a game, waiting for a game, doing a game, on the road for a game. I don't know. But I'm assuming I'm going to find a very, very vibrant version of Cleveland. I don't know what the Browns are going to be, but I'll tell you this. I think the Ravens are going to be good this year, Daryl. And I don't know where the Bengals and where the Steelers are, but I've seen enough of the Ravens to think this train's turning around this year. I don't know that they're going to go to the Super Bowl or any of that, but I think this is going to be a real good Ravens team this year.
Well, I think the Cincinnati Bengals are going to replace the Cleveland Browns in the basement of the division this year. How's that for a hot take for you?
Okay, go for it. Tell me why.
Because I think the Browns are just a better football team all around. I think the division's going to go. Pittsburgh is going to win it. I think Baltimore will be in second place, hoping for a wild card spot. I think the Browns will finish third, Cincinnati fourth, and we'll be sitting here a year from now talking about whether or not the Cleveland Browns can end the longest playoff drought in the NFL and get themselves in position to play some actual football in January instead of watching it.
Well, as long as it's not the Ravens back in, letting the Browns back into the playoffs the way we did the Bills. We got the Bills in week 1. We're supposed to win. They better win this week. And I said that
the
to all
Bills are terrible. I saw them in the preseason. They look like the Browns last year.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of that in the Hard Knocks thing too, because I really was mesmerized by the hearing Hugh and hearing so much of Marvin in him, right? Like having known Marvin all this time, and I don't know Hugh all that well at all. Obviously Tyrod, but I'm sort of buying the Browns. I'm not down stocking the Bengals. I'm just not. They've been too good too long, and the quarterbacks get better. The offensive line was a mess. I thought they got sort of old and all old together. I thought they kept the band together a little too long. I'm not anti-Marvin. I don't think Marvin's the village idiot, and I think the quarterback can play. I'm more interested in the Steelers, right? Like, if your outfit's a little better, there should be a little bit of a fight put up against the Steelers, and the Steelers have had a lot of things go wrong with wide receivers, and the quarterback's another year older, another year more immobile, another year more broken down, probably if science and and the world takes over in that way. I don't know. At some point, the Steelers can't come out of the womb winning 11 or 12 games every year. At some point, there needs to be something that rocks them a little bit. And I think if the Browns are better, I'd see that this week. But I tell you what, if I look up and it's 37-13 in the fourth quarter, as it's always sort of kind of been, I'll know the Steelers have arrived, but the Steelers still have to show me something this year. It's a new year for them, too.
Yeah, well, here's the other thing, too. If there's ever a time to pick off the Steelers, it's in the first week of the regular season. But I'll go back to last year. The Browns lost by a field goal. They actually had the lead on Pittsburgh in the second half, and they almost won that game if it wasn't for Deshaun Kaiser throwing interceptions. So I'm with you, though. Every year I say this is the year that the Steelers are too old, and they take a step back, and someone else is going to take over the division. And every year, there they sit, winning the division, and they're playing in the AFC Championship game, it seems like. So as long as Ben Roethlisberger is there, along with Antonio Brown and Mike Tomlin, I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers remain the class of this division. I would put the Ravens as 1B there behind Pittsburgh. But the Browns haven't won a divisional game. Also, a trivia question for you: the last time the Cleveland Browns won a game in the AFC North was
1994, January 95. Yes.
How about 2015 in Baltimore? That was the Josh McCown game where he went bananas and threw for like 500 yards in an overtime win down there. So the Ravens are the answers to 2 Cleveland Browns trivia questions as far as utility goes, but it's been 17 games.
You guys are bored out there coming up with that. Don't you have baseball to watch or something? Seriously.
Well, you know what? It goes both ways, Nestor. That's all I have to say. I can't help it. These are things that I have to write about because you look and you say, hey, when's the last time the Browns actually won a game in the division? Oh, my goodness gracious. It was all the way back in 2015. It was October. When's the last time they won on opening day? You got to go back to 2004. It speaks more to just how bad the Cleveland Browns have been. More so an indictment of the Ravens losing a game to them. It's incomprehensible that this franchise has been so bad for so long. And it's not that they're bad; they're terrible. Like they're Baltimore Orioles in 2018, terrible. And
that's saying something, dog.
In today's NFL, to be that bad for that long, it's unheard of. So hopefully John Dorsey, with all these new guys that he's brought in, Jarvis Landry is the camp MVP.
Oh, by the way, can I just ask you about this? The Jarvis Landry speech. in week 1 in the wide receiver room.
Dude,
let me tell you what, man. I've been covering sports a long time. I've been at this 35 years going on now. Been on the radio 27 years. I've been, I was with the Ravens when they got off the boat. I've been in locker rooms. I've heard speeches. I've watched Hard Knocks. I've seen the real thing. I've seen sideline blow-ups. These guys have always been mic'd and all that. That's one of my all-time favorites, and I tweeted that and I wrote about it, and some people sort of took it the wrong way and this and that. I said, you know what, dude? Jarvis Landry wants to win. I love dudes that want to win.
Todd Haley's the same way. If you've watched Todd Haley throughout this series on Hard Knocks, he's the same way, and the message is simple. The reason why this franchise has been the laughingstock and doormat, not just of the AFC North, but the entire National Football League, is because of the little things. It was interesting. Alonzo Highsmith, who's one of the executives under John Dorsey now, he tweeted out a picture tonight of a whiteboard. And I forget the exact quote, but the theme falls in line with what we're talking about. And it said something to the effect of, everybody in the NFL lifts weights. Everybody in the NFL conditions and works out and practices and prepares. But that's not the separator in this league. The separator is the standard by which you hold yourself to doing those things. And that's the theme that I took from Jarvis's speech, that I take from Todd Haley's digs, things, and that's why they cut Corey Coleman and got him out of here. It's why they gutted the roster and got 31 of these guys. It's why they cut Carl Nassib and they cut Nate Orchard and they all the hard knock stars. Those guys that have been here for a couple of years, that were stars on the show because they're guys. They're nice guys. They're funny. They're charismatic. They're good dudes, but they're not game changers. And so the Cleveland Browns are trying to position themselves just like the Baltimore Ravens have, just like to a degree the Cincinnati Bengals have and the Pittsburgh Steelers have, and that is average is not good enough. It is no longer acceptable here with the Cleveland Browns to be average, and that's what those guys are. They're average role players. Great guys, cool, but they're not difference makers. They're not game changers. And that's what John Dorsey focused on this offseason. Jarvis Landry, he's a blue-chip caliber talent that's a game changer. Demarius Randall, blue-chip talent, game changer. Denzel Ward, game changer. Carlos Hyde has the potential to be a game changer. Same with Nick Chubb, their second-round running back pick this year. Potential.
Well, Myles Garrett better be a game changer. Right?
Myles Garrett is a game changer. Emmanuel Ogbah has the potential to be a game changer opposite of Myles Garrett. So these are so when you look at the Browns roster, the talent disparity between last year and this, it's night and day. It's not even close. So do I think the Cleveland Browns have arrived? No, not by any stretch of imagination. I think they're a 6-10 football team because they lack depth. But
6-10 is a long way from 1-34, man.
That's my point, Nestor. You have a solid foundation with which now to build this franchise upon, and you still have all the salary cap room in the world. You still have your draft picks next year. So I think this year's all about just laying the foundation, that new standard of excellence that's been in Baltimore, that's been in Pittsburgh, and in New England and these other franchises that have been successful, laying the foundation for that so that next year when you and I are talking again, we're talking about how the Cleveland Browns can knock the Ravens off the perch and knock the Steelers off the perch. That is the goal.
He is Daryl Ruiter. He is Right or Wrong Fan out on Twitter at 92.3 out in the land of Cleve. All of our WNST coverage brought to you by our friends at Cole Roofing. And, of course, Bill Cole will be here this week talking some sports with us, as well as our community and charity series each and every Thursday morning. If you've got a great story that needs to be told, email me, nasty@WNST.net. All brought to you by Cole Roofing and Pfister Energy as well. Royal Farms, real fresh, real fast with the coffee and the Kona blend in the cup, as well as the fried chicken and the Western fries. with ketchup and a roll. I'll be doing that. It is no longer Chicken Palooza, but it's always Chicken Palooza for me because I love the fried chicken at Rofo. Real fresh, real fast, and be challenging Justin Tucker to a coffee drinking contest at some point around here. Daryl, last thing for you. Just want to give you a chance to pimp the tribe a little bit. I've pimped your city. There's no more basketball to talk about. I don't think they play that anymore now that LeBron's out in L.A. But for the baseball side of things, obviously a lot of challenges around here in Baltimore. And of all the things that, yeah,
they don't play baseball in Baltimore anymore.
We do not. We play the what's going on in Bowie and Delmarva and Frederick tonight with the 15 guys we traded for. It's disgraceful what's going on around here. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but in a place like Cleveland, to see it as vibrant as I saw it last month, where people are downtown, the fireworks are going off, people want to be at the games, they identify with the players, they're into it. It has been a nice little renaissance, and here you go again. And as I always say, you better win game one if you're the Red Sox especially.
Yeah, I mean, the standard for the Indians now, it's not about winning the division. They've already done that. They play in the worst division in baseball, which obviously helps them a little bit here, but they're using September basically as an audition for the postseason. They got Donaldson they got to get him healthy now, and maybe he'll provide that extra oomph that they need. They're going to shift around the infield, put him at third base, move Jose Ramirez, who I think is an AL MVP candidate. They're going to move him over to second base. Jason Kipnis now becomes the odd man out, or maybe he becomes the fourth outfielder. So, they find a home for him out there, but. That's how Terry Francona is going to use the month of September. Winning the division is not even a question. Now it's just about getting this team ready to win in October, because they've gotten to October. They've been to the World Series. The standard now is winning the World Series. If the Cleveland Indians do not win the World Series, it is a failure of a season. It's almost like when LeBron was here. If the Cavaliers don't win the NBA Finals, the season is a failure, because that's what LeBron is about. That's what the organization is about, and that's what the Cleveland Indians are about right now. They have gotten themselves up, since Terry Francona got here in 2013. The Indians have the best record of any American League team over that span and in the regular season. But the standard now no longer is about winning the division or just getting to October. It's about winning the World Series, period, end of story. And that's just a very refreshing thing to hear from that organization, who for years and years after the 90s teams, it became, well, we're just hoping to get to October and whatever happens, happens. Now it's not, we're not hoping to get to October. We expect to be there. We're going to be there. And we're there to win the whole thing.
Well, and being 20 games beneath the Red Sox doesn't mean anything once you get game one. And I would say that for anyone that's the runaway, and the Red Sox can win 115 games, whatever it's going to be, or is going to lose 115 games, whatever it's going to be. I don't think that any of that matters. I would say this: the bullpen's everything, and the health is everything. And when I think about the Indians the last couple of years in maneuverings, and we saw Oakland deal themselves out of first place a couple of years ago with crazy deals at the trading deadline. I think Cleveland has been sort of the slow and steady in all of this.
Yep.
And more than that, they've been the most unhealthy team and the most unlucky team, I think, the last couple of years, specifically with the starting pitching.
And this year is no different. Trevor Bauer, who is a Cy Young candidate, he's got a hairline fracture now, and he's out, and he's probably not going to win the Cy Young now. And he may not even be available in October. And he was going to be one of their, premier arms that they were, counting on behind Corey Kluber. So right now it's about just getting to October with all your pieces healthy, lined up, and ready to go. And you know what? I hope the Boston Red Sox win 130 baseball games. Go ahead and expend all your energy in the regular season. So by the time you get to October, you are dead tired. Because we see that all the time, Nestor, with these teams that have these record-breaking regular seasons, and then when October comes, they all fizzle out. So I'm all for the Red Sox winning as many games in the regular season as they want. We'll see in October when you're dead tired. And, it happened to the Indians last year. They were I think they had the best record in the American League, and they got bounced by the wild card Yankees. So The opportunity knocks once again, but Terry Francona really needs some luck in getting his baseball team healthy so that they're full strength when October does roll around.
They still play baseball in Cleveland and allegedly going to play some football in Cleveland as well. We will be in Cleveland the week of October the 7th. By the way, it's the last week before I turn 50, which is the following week of the 14th. So I'm spending the final week of the first half century of my life in Cleveland. So this is going to be good. There's going to be rock and roll. There's going to be food. There's going to be beverages. And an improved Browns team, I would say, coming up in 5 weeks. I'll hit you in a month. We'll see where you land. Go beat the Steelers this week, Daryl Ruiter and the Cleveland Browns.
That would be a nice change of pace. I'm not used to writing about wins.
I will be following from afar, and we'll check in a little later on. Always good to have you on, Daryl. Be well, man.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
One of my favorites from out in the land of Cleve, Daryl Ruiter. You can find him at Ruiter Wrong. That's Ruiter Wrong fan at 92.3, who has been very busy chronicling LeBron as well as the baseball team and his primary beat out with the Browns. Been a lot of losing going on out there in the land of Cleve and Hard Knocks. You can find me out on the BuyAToyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world. No static at all. Just like Steely Dan and the FM song says. And, of course, Steely Dan will be playing the week of my 50th birthday. October 11th, they're down at the Modell Lyric. Modell Lyric, get to their website. It's modell-lyric.com. There's always magic at the Modell, including Steely Dan on October 11th. Kansas coming up on November 24th. 2 Bill Burr shows my birthday week. And the show next week, John Cusack doing a screening of Say Anything. Big movie of my youth. And John Cusack down at the Modell Lyric. So big doings there in the fall. There's always magic at the Modell Lyric. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook, as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.